I'm 37 and recently finalized my divorce from my wife, Maya. We were together for 7 years and married for 2. Looking back, I think I should have seen this train crash coming. Honestly, the warning signs were there from the beginning, but I ignored them because, well, I loved her, or so I thought. Brianna, Maya's best friend, was the label given to the flaws in our relationship. Have you ever met someone and immediately realized they were bad news? That was Brianna. She was loud, self-centered, and constantly wanted to be the focus of attention. From the moment I met her, I felt like she was sizing me up, looking for something to use against me. But Maya couldn't see it. She saw Brianna as her college ride or die, someone who had been there through it all. I thought, fine, I'll tolerate her because she's important to Maya. But Brianna knew how to push buttons. During our wedding planning, things began to go wrong quickly. I proposed to Maya after 4 years of dating. We were already living together at the time, so it felt like a natural progression. She was ecstatic, as was I at first. Then Brianna poked her nose in. It started small. She disliked our color palette, describing it as incredibly dull. I let it go because nobody cares what colors we choose. Then she complained about the food, claiming that we needed gluten-free alternatives because half of the guests would likely prefer them. There may have been one person with a dietary restriction in total, and then she insisted on walking down the aisle first, ahead of the bridesmaids. Yeah, you read that correctly. Brianna wanted to do her own walk down the aisle. Her argument was this: I've been there through every one of Maya's breakups, every hard moment in her life. This day is about celebrating the people who stood by her, not just the marriage. I assumed it was a joke at first. Who actually asks for that? But Maya simply nodded along. I could watch her cave in real time. I attempted to step in. I told Maya, look, this is our wedding, not a stage for Brianna to perform on. Your sister's already your maid of honor, and that's enough. Maya became defensive, claiming I was making a huge deal out of nothing. Meanwhile, Brianna acted as if I had insulted her entire existence. Wow, she said. I didn't realize your fiancé was so controlling. That hurt. But instead of standing up for me, Maya folded. It's just one little thing, she explained afterward. If it makes her happy, what's the harm? So, Brianna had her grand entrance. She walked down the aisle as if it were her wedding. I could feel my parents' sideways glances from the front row, but I just gritted my teeth and smiled for the photos. I assumed that once we were married, this kind of nonsense would stop. Brianna would have less say in our lives. A big mistake. Huge. Brianna did not, as I had hoped, fade into the background following the wedding. If anything, she grew more invested in our lives. Maya and I would be talking about our weekend plans, and Brianna's name would come up like clockwork. Oh, I already told Brianna she could join us, Maya would add. Or, as another example, Brianna thinks we should check out this restaurant instead. It was as if we couldn't make any decisions without her opinion. I attempted to bring it up gently with Maya. At first, I said, I like that you have a close friend, but I feel like Brianna's a little too involved in our lives. Can we set some boundaries? Maya became defensive again. She's my best friend, she explained. I can't just shut her out. You don't understand how much she's done for me. Maybe I didn't understand. I wasn't around during the college years, breakups, or whatever, but I did realize that Brianna didn't respect me or our marriage, and Maya was too preoccupied with their friendship to notice it. I hoped Brianna wasn't trying to undermine me on purpose. Maybe she was one of those people who couldn't take a step back. But deep down, I believe I knew better. Brianna did not like me, plain and simple. And the more she injected herself into our life, the clearer it became. I'm not sure why I didn't put my foot down earlier. Maybe I thought it wasn't worth fighting. Maybe I didn't want to risk driving Maya away. But that was my mistake. By staying silent, I let Brianna believe she had the right to intervene in our marriage. It was too late for me to realize how deep it went. After about a year of marriage, Maya and I had finally settled into a routine. Work, date nights, weekend binge-watching of TV shows. Things were not perfect, but they were good. Peaceful, even. That was until Brianna showed up at our door, sobbing as if her entire world had fallen apart. It was a Friday evening. Maya and I were going to make stir-fry and maybe watch a movie. I was about halfway through chopping vegetables when the doorbell rang. Maya went to answer it, and I could hear Brianna crying within seconds. I looked around the corner, and there she was, clinging onto Maya like a shipwrecked survivor. She had a duffel bag over her shoulder and mascara streaming down her face. He ended it, Brianna sobbed. I can't do this alone. Maya brought her inside, giving me a look that said, we'll talk later. I stood there, knife in hand, feeling like I had fallen into a nightmare. Brianna flopped down on our couch, rambling about how her 2-year boyfriend had broken up with her. Unexpectedly, Maya sat next to her, holding her hand, nodding sympathetically. I stayed in the kitchen, trying to focus on the stir-fry, but when Brianna continued her dramatic story, I couldn't help but overhear. Apparently, her boyfriend, Marcus, had completely surprised her by breaking up with her via text since he felt they weren't compatible. Brianna, of course, argued that she had been the ideal girlfriend, and Marcus was simply an emotionally unavailable jerk. Do you have anywhere to stay tonight? Maya asked gently. Brianna sniffled and looked at me in the kitchen before saying, No, I can't go back to my parents. They'll just say I told you so, and all my other friends are busy. I don't know where else to go. I could see where this was going, and I wasn't happy about it. Sure enough, Maya turned to me. Would it be okay if Brianna stayed here for a few days, just until she gets back on her feet? What was I supposed to say? No, your best friend can't stay here despite the fact that she's obviously a wreck? So I nodded and forced a smile. Yeah, of course. At first, I tried to remain patient. Brianna was heartbroken. I got it. Breakups are the worst. For the first few days, I stayed out of her way and let Maya handle her. However, by the end of the week, it was clear that a few days would stretch into who knows how long. Brianna wasn't simply staying with us. She was taking over. Maya and I had carefully kept the guest room nice and organized, but it had now become a disaster zone. Clothes were everywhere, on the floor, on the bed, draped over the chair. Empty coffee mugs and takeout cartons accumulated on the nightstand. It resembled a teenager's room after a bad breakup. Only Brianna was 36. She essentially lived in the living room, binge-watching reality shows at max volume and occupying the couch. I got home from work twice and found her sprawled out in her pajamas, eating snacks from a family-sized chip bag while watching a dating show. She didn't even look up when I came in. She just murmured, "Hey," between bites. The kitchen wasn't safe either. Brianna wasn't a great cook, but that didn't stop her from using our pots and pans as if she were auditioning for a cooking show. The problem was she never cleaned up after herself. I wake up in the morning to find the sink full of dirty dishes and weird half-eaten meals on the counter. I tried talking about it with Maya one night. I know Brianna's going through a lot, I told her, but she's treating this place like a hotel. It's not fair to us. Maya seemed torn. I know it's frustrating, but she doesn't have anywhere else to go. She just needs a little more time. A little more time, I said. It's been 2 weeks. How much longer are we supposed to put up with this? Maya paused. I'll talk to her. However, it didn't help. Brianna flipped the script, portraying herself as the victim. I'm sorry if my presence is such a burden, she said dramatically, her eyes welling up with tears. I'll leave, if that's what you want. Maya, of course, rushed to comfort her. No, it's not like that. We just want to make sure you're okay. It was infuriating. Brianna knew how to manipulate Maya, and she fell for it every time. So the final straw came roughly a month in. One Saturday morning, I walked into the garage to grab some equipment for a DIY project I was working on. To my surprise, I found my power drill, saw, and other tools scattered across the back porch. Brianna was sitting on the ground painting a pile of random wooden scraps in bright neon colors. What's this? I asked, pointing to the mess. She looked up, unbothered. Oh, it's for my healing, my therapist suggested. Doing something creative to process my emotions. I blinked at her. You went through my tools without asking. She shrugged. I didn't think you'd mind. I was done. I went back inside and found Maya in the kitchen. She has to go, I said firmly. I'm not asking anymore. Maya looked at me, surprised by my tone. What happened? She's treating this house like her personal playground. Well, I'm done with it, Maya. I've been patient, but this isn't working. She needs to leave. Maya sighed and rubbed her temples. Okay, I'll talk to her again. This time, I didn't leave it up to Maya. I sat down with both of them and laid everything out. Brianna, we've done our best to support you through this, but it's been a month. This isn't sustainable for us. You need to start looking for another place to stay. Brianna did not take it well. She accused me of being cruel and not understanding what she was going through. You're kicking me out when I'm at my lowest, she continued, staring at me. Wow, what a great person you are. I didn't let her guilt-tripping get to me. I'm not kicking you out today, but you need to find somewhere else. We've given you plenty of time. Maya looked torn, but for once, she didn't side with Brianna. Brianna left within a week. She stormed off in a fury, mumbling something about how I had always been controlling and Maya deserved better. As she drove away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in weeks, our home felt like our own again. Even so, I knew this wouldn't be the last we heard from Brianna. The real Brianna damage happened on a random Saturday afternoon. Maya had gone out for her regular brunch with Brianna. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I had stopped commenting on their gatherings months before. What was the point? Brianna was going to be in Maya's life regardless of what I said. I stayed home, planning to use the quiet time to run errands. Nothing exciting, just shopping, laundry, and a little yard work. By the time Maya got back, I was in the kitchen unloading groceries. I greeted her like I normally did, but something seemed off. She barely said anything, mumbling a hey and heading straight to the bedroom. I stood there for a second, holding a bag of oranges, trying to figure out what I'd done to upset her. Maybe she was just tired? I shrugged it off and went back to putting things away. Maya stayed distant for the rest of the day. She avoided eye contact, answered my questions with one-word replies, and spent most of her time glued to her phone. I asked her several times if something was wrong, but she just said I'm fine. Clearly she wasn't. I figured Brianna had unloaded some of her usual drama, and Maya just needed time to process. That night, though, things got weird after dinner. She barely touched her food before going to bed early. When I came in later, she was curled up on the far edge of the bed, seemingly asleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, unsure what was going on. The next morning, I decided to address it. Maya, seriously, what's going on? You've been acting strange since you got back from brunch. She paused for a moment, not looking at me before saying, I need to ask you something, and you need to be honest. Okay, I said, feeling a knot form in my stomach. What is it? She finally turned to face me, her expression a mix of anger and hurt. Were you with someone else yesterday? I blinked at her, completely confused. What? What are you talking about? Her voice got sharper. Brianna said she saw you in a parking lot. She said you were in your car kissing some woman. For a split second, I had no idea how to respond. I almost laughed because it was so absurd, but when I saw Maya's serious expression, my confusion turned to frustration. Maya, that's ridiculous. I wasn't with anyone. I was grocery shopping. She described your car, Maya said sharply. She said you were wearing your navy jacket. She even knew the parking lot by that shopping center near Oak Avenue. I felt like I was in a bad dream. Yeah, because I was at that shopping center. That's where the grocery store is. I wasn't kissing anyone. I was buying milk and pasta. Maya crossed her arms and glared at me. Then why would Brianna say she saw you? That question annoyed me more than anything. Are you sure she's not mistaken, or there's some mix-up? No. So why would she lie? Brianna lying seemed ridiculous to her. I don't know, Maya, I said, my voice rising. Why don't you ask her? Because I didn't do anything wrong. But she wasn't listening. I don't know what to believe, she said quietly, shaking her head. Brianna wouldn't lie about something like this. That hit me like a punch in the chest. She wasn't sure what to believe. After everything we'd been through, she couldn't trust me over Brianna. I stood up and paced the room. You've known me for 7 years. Do you really think I'd cheat on you? And in a parking lot? Of all places? Does that even sound like me? Maya didn't answer. She just sat there, staring at her hands. I need time to think, she finally said, her voice barely audible. The following days were horrible. Maya barely spoke to me. She moved into the guest room, claiming she needed space. Every time I tried to bring up the topic, she shut me down. I'm not ready to talk, she'd say. Or, I need more time. Meanwhile, I was wandering around in a fog of anger and disbelief. I couldn't stop thinking about Brianna. This was exactly the kind of chaos she thrived on. But I couldn't figure out why. Why go to such lengths? Why lie about something so serious? Did she really dislike me that much? At the same time, I couldn't ignore the bigger issue. Maya's reaction, the fact that she didn't even give me the benefit of the doubt, revealed more about our marriage than Brianna's lies ever could. What did it mean for us if she believed Brianna over me? Maya left a week later, having packed her stuff. She didn't even tell me where she was going. She just said she needed time to think things through. I didn't fight her on it. At that point, I was too exhausted to fight. The next morning, I got a text from her. I think it's best if we separate for now. I'll have my lawyer send over the paperwork. That was it. No discussion, no attempt to resolve anything. Just a text and a lawyer. It felt like our entire marriage had been thrown away over one ridiculous story. I had no idea how to process it. Part of me wanted to fight, to prove my innocence and make Maya understand. But another part of me was done. If she was willing to throw everything away that quickly, maybe I didn't want to repair our marriage anyway. Over the next few weeks, our split became public, and Brianna made sure everyone knew her version of events. Mutual friends started acting strange around me, avoiding eye contact and making vague comments about working on myself. Even my own family started asking uncomfortable questions, like, is there any truth to what they're saying? It felt like I was living in a nightmare. Everywhere I turned, I was reminded of how fast people can turn against you. Maya stayed silent through all of it. No calls, no texts, no attempts to reach out, just radio silence. At first I was furious, more than I'd ever been in my life. But as the days turned into weeks, the anger faded. It was replaced with something colder and harder. If Maya didn't trust me enough to have a conversation, maybe I didn't need her in my life. I wasn't about to beg someone who didn't believe in me. Let her take her time, let her stay under Brianna's thumb. I'd had enough of fighting for a marriage where I always came second to her so-called best friend. If this is how things were going to end, so be it. Update. 2 months after Maya left on a Tuesday evening, something unexpected happened. I was minding my own business, scrolling through my phone while eating dinner, when I got a text from an unfamiliar number. It started with, "Hi, this is Natalie. I know Brianna lied about you. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a bit, trying to figure out who Natalie was. The name rang a faint bell. Something about a birthday gathering Brianna and Maya had dragged me to a couple of years back. But why would she message me now? My first instinct was to ignore it. But something about the way she put it, "I know Brianna lied about you," caught my interest. I replied, "What do you mean? What lie?" Her response came almost immediately. About the cheating. Brianna admitted she made it up. "I think you should see the proof." The next day, Natalie and I met at a small cafe downtown. When I arrived, she was already sitting at a table near the window, fidgeting with her phone. I sat across from her, feeling a mix of curiosity and dread. "Thanks for meeting me," she said awkwardly. "I wasn't sure if you'd even want to talk." Yeah, well, here I am, I said. What's this about Brianna lying? She pulled out her phone and opened a text exchange. I've been friends with Brianna for a long time, but after this, I can't stay quiet anymore. You need to know what really happened. She handed me the phone, and I started reading. The messages between her and Brianna were stunning. Brianna. OMG. Maya finally left him. She actually believed me. Lol, poor guy. Natalie. What are you even talking about? Brianna. I told her I saw him kissing some random woman in his car. You should have seen her face. Priceless. Natalie. Wait. Are you serious? Why would you do that? Brianna. Because he's a controlling jerk and she's too blind to see it. I had to help her. I kept scrolling, my hands shaking with rage. It's not like their marriage would have lasted anyway. Maya is so trusting she'll believe whatever I tell her. Please, Natalie, this is messed up. Brianna. Whatever. She's better off without him, and I won't have to hear about her perfect marriage anymore. Gag. I couldn't read any further. I handed the phone back to Natalie, my jaw clenched so hard it hurt. She actually said that? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Natalie nodded, looking visibly upset. Yeah, she bragged about it like it was some kind of achievement. I didn't believe it at first, but when she started mocking Maya for being so naive, I realized how twisted it was. I sat there trying to process what I'd just seen. Brianna didn't just lie. She deliberately destroyed my marriage, mocking Maya in the process. She'd manipulated her own best friend out of pure spite. Why are you telling me this now? I finally asked. Why not sooner? Natalie looked down at her coffee. I don't know. I guess I was scared. Brianna can be intense, but I couldn't stay quiet anymore. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to Maya. I took screenshots of the messages and thanked Natalie for coming forward. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. Furious at Brianna for being such a manipulative, entitled piece of work. Furious at Maya for falling for it so quickly. And furious at myself for letting Brianna get away with it for so long. But more than anything, I felt vindicated. For months, I've been walking around with a cloud over my head, wondering what I could have done differently. Now, I could prove none of it was my fault. Brianna had set me up from the start, and Maya had played right into her hands. By the time I got home, my anger had cooled into something colder. I wasn't going to lash out or make accusations. No, I was going to do this the right way. First, I sent the screenshots to my lawyer with a short note. This is what actually happened. Let me know how we can use it. I sat down and stared at my phone, unsure whether to text Maya. Part of me didn't want to. What was the point? She'd already shown where her loyalty was. But another part of me felt she deserved to know the truth, even if it didn't change anything. After a few minutes, I typed a message. We should talk. It's important. Her reply came faster than I expected. What do you want? I kept it short. I have proof Brianna lied. Can we meet? You should see this. There was a long pause before she said, Fine, tomorrow afternoon, and I suggested a park near her parents' place. She agreed, and that was it. I didn't want to win her back. I wasn't interested in that anymore, but I needed her to know the truth, if only to clear my name. Part of me wanted to just throw the screenshots at Maya and let her deal with it, but I knew I needed to stay composed. I didn't want her to think I was being overly dramatic about this. When Maya finally arrived, she looked nervous and hesitant. She was wearing her usual casual outfit, a hoodie and jeans, but she lacked the confidence she used to have. She saw me and gave a small wave before walking over. What's this about? She asked, arms crossed defensively. I didn't waste any time. I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots Natalie had sent me, and handed it to her. Read this, I said plainly. Maya looked at me, confused, then took the phone and started scrolling. At first, her expression was neutral, but as she read, it changed. Her eyes widened, her mouth fell open, and she went pale. By the time she got to the last message, she handed the phone back to me with shaking hands. She lied, she said quietly, almost to herself. Yeah, I said, keeping my voice steady. She lied about everything. She made up the story about me cheating just to break us up, and apparently, she thought it was funny. Maya sat down on the bench next to me and stared at the ground. I didn't know, she said softly. I didn't think she'd ever. You didn't think she'd ever lie to you? I asked, my tone harsher than I meant. That's the problem, Maya. You didn't think. You didn't even stop to question it. You just believed her and threw me under the bus. She flinched at my words but said nothing. Do you know how humiliating this has been? My friends, my family, even my coworkers started looking at me like I was some kind of villain. All because you couldn't take 2 seconds to ask me what really happened. Tears welled up in her eyes. I thought I was doing the right thing, she said. Brianna has been my best friend for years. I trusted her. Yeah, well, that trust just cost you your marriage, I said. Honestly? Maya looked up at me, tears running down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice cracking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. That's the problem, Maya, I explained, my tone softening but still firm. You didn't know because you didn't even give me a chance. You trusted her more than you trusted me, and that says a lot about how you saw this marriage. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the weight of everything hanging in the air. Finally, Maya spoke again. "I'll cut her off," she said softly. "I'll never talk to her again. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Figure things out. I'll do whatever it takes." I sighed and ran a hand through my hair. Part of me wanted to believe her, but the truth was, the damage had already been done. She had chosen Brianna over me without hesitation. "I don't think we can fix this," I admitted. "Ultimately, it's not just about what Brianna did. It's about how easily you believed her, how little trust you had in me. That's not something we can just work through." Maya began to cry harder. "I was foolish," she said between sobs. "I should have talked to you. I should have trusted you. Please, just give me one more chance." I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Maya, but I can't. This isn't just about forgiveness. It's about trust. And once that's gone, it's nearly impossible to get back." She kept crying. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered all the nights I'd spent alone, wondering what I could have done better. All the friends who abandoned me because they believed Brianna's lies. All the times I questioned my own worth because Maya discarded me so easily. And with that, my sympathy disappeared. "I think it's best if we both move on," I said, standing up. "I wish things could have been different, but this is where we are now." Maya didn't try to stop me. She just sat there, crying into her hands, while I walked away. I didn't look back. For the first time in months, I felt in control of my life again. Later that night, Maya texted me a long apology and begged me to reconsider. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Brianna's lie may have been the spark, but Maya's lack of trust was the real reason our marriage fell apart. And at this point, I had no interest in trying to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. Instead, I sent the screenshots to a few mutual friends who had ghosted me. I didn't add any comments. I just let the texts speak for themselves. Within hours, my phone was flooded with apologies and messages of support. One friend wrote, "Wow, I can't believe Brianna would do that. I'm so sorry for doubting you. You didn't deserve this." Another added, "Let me know if there's anything I can do." I felt good to be vindicated, but I wasn't interested in rebuilding those friendships. If they were so quick to believe the worst about me, they weren't people I wanted in my life anymore. I didn't bother confronting Brianna. What was the point? She'd already shown who she really was, and I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much damage she'd caused. Even though I'd cut off most of our mutual friends, word still got back to me. A few days later, one friend, Jess, called me and said, "You're not going to believe this, but Brianna's basically been blacklisted from our group. Apparently, once word got out about what she'd done, everyone started distancing themselves from her. Natalie had shared the screenshots with a few others, and the story spread quickly. Brianna tried to defend herself, claiming she was just looking out for Maya and that I was controlling and toxic, but nobody bought it. She's completely spiraling," Jess said, laughing. Curious, I looked up Brianna's profiles myself, using an incognito account, of course. Sure enough, there were a bunch of posts about how her so-called friends had abandoned her after she'd just tried to help. One post read, "So I guess people can't handle the truth. I stood up for Maya when no one else would, and now I'm the bad guy. Pathetic." The comments were not exactly sympathetic. Most people called her out, saying things like, "You didn't help anyone, you destroyed a marriage. This is what happens when you manipulate people. Maybe take a good look at yourself before blaming everyone else." It was satisfying to watch her finally get what she deserved. Meanwhile, Maya's life wasn't going great either. She moved back in with her parents after everything fell apart, and from what I heard, money was tight. Her mom, who had always been skeptical of Brianna, was furious when she found out the truth. A mutual friend told me about a heated argument between Maya and her mother. Apparently, her mom said, "You threw away a good man for a liar. How could you be so foolish?" Harsh, but not exactly wrong. Maya was trying to rebuild her life, but it wasn't going smoothly. Her attempts to reconnect with some of our old friends got mixed reactions. While a few people were willing to forgive her, most weren't. They'd seen how quickly she turned on me and didn't want to risk being in the same position. "She looks miserable," Jess told me during one of our rare conversations. "Like she's trying to put on a brave face, but you can tell she regrets everything." A few weeks later, Brianna lost her job. Natalie, who still worked with her, texted me out of the blue. "Just thought you'd want to know." Brianna got fired today. Apparently, Brianna's reputation had finally caught up with her at work. People found out what she'd done, and her coworkers started avoiding her. She'd always been the type to stir up drama in the office, but after this, nobody wanted to deal with her. Eventually, her manager noticed the tension and let her go, citing interpersonal issues as the reason. I'd like to say I felt bad for her, but I didn't. She'd spent years manipulating people and causing chaos, and now she was finally facing the consequences. My life kept getting better. A few months later, I ran into Natalie at a coffee shop. We ended up talking for a while, and she filled me in on the latest. "Maya reached out to Brianna a few weeks ago," she said, rolling her eyes. "Can you believe that? What happened?" I asked, genuinely curious. Well, Maya tried to apologize, hoping to patch things up, but Brianna just laughed in her face. She told Maya she was pathetic for even trying, and that she was better off without her. I shook my head, somewhere between amused and bewildered. Figures. Brianna doesn't know how to take responsibility for anything. Natalie smirked. Yeah, well, they're both getting what they deserve. Looking back, I can't say I'm happy about how things played out, but I'm grateful for where I ended up. Brianna and Maya's toxic friendship was a ticking time bomb, and I just happened to be collateral damage. But in the end, they destroyed each other, and I got to walk away with a clean slate. It's funny how life works out sometimes. Karma doesn't always come fast, but when it does, it hits hard. Brianna and Maya learned the hard way, and I'm fine with that. They made their choices, and now they're living with the consequences. I'm moving on. I've built a life that makes me happy, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. And honestly, that's the best revenge I could have asked for. Do you think Maya deserves a second chance after everything that happened? Or did she lose that the moment she chose Brianna's word over mine? Let me know what you think in the comments.